I'm going to verify that indeed we have a quorum. We have two individuals that will not be with us this evening, Babs DeLay and John Iwanowski. Despite that, we do have a quorum. I want to call the meeting to order. We have on this tonight's docket a fairly brief meeting with Historic Landmark Commission. We have let's start off with our approval of the minutes from last meeting. I'm going to ask for a motion to do that.
A motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you, Emily. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Okay. No.
Very
please.
well. Let's.
Helen's got it.
All right. Let's go ahead and vote. Adrian.
Aye.
Carlton. Oh, Carlton's not here. Excuse me. Amanda.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Abramson. Emily.
Aye.
Jared.
Aye.
And Alan.
Aye.
And myself, I would say as well. Thank you very much. So we do not have a report from the chair or the vice chair. Do we indeed have a report by the director?
It's like the most perfect timing ever because Chief Allred just walked in the door and I invited the chief very poorly today to come and just speak to the commission about the fire at Chateau Normandy and maybe answer any questions that he can answer. Other than that, I don't really have any updates from planning right now. So I will just have Chief Allred. I think you can probably go right up there. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
I'm Chief Tony Allred, Chief of Fire Prevention and City's Fire. So I have fire prevention activities and the city's fire investigation team. I'll open up to questions, but just real brief. So the fire, I'll just hit with the condition of the building now, post-fire. I'll talk about.
Oh, it's not on. That explains it. We'll talk about the condition of the Normandy building post-fire as it sits now, and then what little I can tell you about an ongoing investigation, and then just whatever questions the commission has. We had two fires over the course of a few hours there. The first fire causing minimal structural damage, some smoke and water damage. The second fire was more extensive. Most of the damage on the fourth floor, the basement we count the basement as the first floor. Obviously an old ordinary construction building. The structural damage to the building, is contained generally to roof members on the north end of the north portion of the building. And a lot of the fire damage at the first fire was in the common central stairway. Lath and plaster building tends to hold up pretty well. There's kind of a dormer with a hip roof on the roof, but that was gone. I'll let the building official and the engineers speak to the longevity of the building, but from our standpoint, fire off our initial assessments, I don't anticipate, once again, I'm not the city building official, that the damage is extensive enough that it would demand a demolition of any portion of the building other than fire reconstruction. The investigation is ongoing. We've concluded the collection of the evidence. So we've turned the scene back over to the building owner, who is working with building services as to what access is allowed to the building. It has been fenced and secured by the fire department's contractor. At some point, we imagine that may be turned over to civil enforcement as a vacant building case, as they manage several vacant buildings in the city, as you know, some more permanent fencing and that type of thing. As far as the investigation goes, we're leaving it publicly as under investigation at this point. We haven't ruled out anything, or are we in a position to charge anything or publicly say that we've landed on a cause and determination. But we continue to interview and review video and other evidence. Any other questions I can expand on?
Did I read that there was just like one person in the building when it?
That we did the fire number 1, as I'll refer to it. One person was transported to the hospital and released, and was available for us for extensive interviews following, and that is the results of that interview are part of the investigation.
This is the first I've heard of this. So was the building occupied at the time?
There was
Or
a
was it
person in the building, but there was no certificate of occupancy associated with the building.
Okay.
From what we could tell, I mean, it was officially supposed to be vacant, not abandoned, but vacant. The status of any permitting would be probably a better question for the building official.
I will make just a comment in that many years ago, I was able to be fortunate enough to design a fire tower on an airport as a training facility. And your brethren thought it would be a great idea if I would dress up with them and help fight the first fire. And that's when my appreciation for all firemen grew immensely. It's a tremendously grueling job. Thank you for what you do.
Okay, we appreciate it. I'll pass it along to the crews involved in the Normandy fire.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So
Kayla, anything else?
I had one more question about that. So is it in the historic district?
It is. It's a contributing structure.
But it's a contributing structure, okay, but it's not listed individually.
It's not listed individually,
All right.
no.
Very good.
We'll just wait and see the results of from fire and building services, and we haven't, that I know of, spoken with the property owner yet on what their intentions are, but I'm sure they're waiting as well. A lot going on there, but just wanted to give you an update, so thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Next, we'll move to general public comments. These are public comments not pertaining to any of the agenda items. Are there any public comments that we have tonight? Cindy?
My name is still Cindy Cromer, and this is the second of a series. At your last meeting, I described the designation of the mid-century building known as Ensign Floral during the last survey. The consultant designated the building as non-contributory. A member of the Landmarks Commission, Polly Hart, challenged that designation successfully. Then the guys from Cowboy Partners showed up in their white hats, and that story had a happy ending. That was my installment for October. The story for tonight does not have a happy ending, and it's probably the most opinionated comment I have made in quite a while. I'm going to omit names because you know many of the people involved, and identifying them will distract, in my opinion, from the focus on the chaos which resulted when a designation was challenged too late. That's my opinion. In this story, I was at odds with everyone except the developer. Yes, that has happened. The developer was earnest, well-intentioned, and talented. He had every reason to believe that he could demolish a non-contributing building in the historic district. Unfortunately, there were people who disagreed and challenged the designation. The building, identified in the survey as non-contributing, had been designed by an architect with deep roots in this community. There was a great deal of information about the architect, and it was readily available. I found myself at odds with people who are typically my allies. The challenge to the designation took a great deal of time, with the developer paying $10,000 a month to stay in the conversation. It was horrible to watch. After many months, the developer gave up. A new proposal from new developers was, in my opinion, inferior to the earlier one. It continues to mar an otherwise terrific block in the historic district, in my opinion. In summary, we lost the mid-century building, which was maybe contributory, but documented as non-contributory. We got a nondescript building in its place, and we lost a developer who was trying to do a good job and couldn't because the process for dealing with last-minute challenge to the designation. I have never seen him propose another project in Salt Lake. Thanks. There'll be another one next month.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Very well. Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to other business. The first item, the title of that is the extension request for new construction approval at approximately 602 East, 300 South, 612 300 South, East 300 South, and 321 South 600 East.
So I have a few slides if you have questions about it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I have a few slides if you have questions about the request, but otherwise the staff recommendation is to grant the extension.
Okay. So at this point, all we're going to entertain is an extension request. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Very well.
I motion that we grant the extension.
Thank you. A second, please.
I'll second.
Very well. Wish all meetings could be this simple. Let's go through this again. Adrian?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
Jared?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Your request for extension has been approved. Very well, thank you. Next, we'll move into public hearing. This is the reconstruction for the 5th Ward Meeting House at approximately 740 South, 300 West. And I think I need to read the case number. Case number is PLNHLC 2024-01127.
So thank you, Chair. This item is for the reconstruction of the 5th Ward Meeting House. The request is for the reconstruction of the portion of the meeting house that was demolished, and the reconstruction proposed is to its 1910 appearance, which was prior to a 1937 addition, and staff's recommendation is for approval. So the property is on the west side of 300 West, and it's in the D zoning district. It's also designated a local landmark site and is individually listed on the National Register and is within the Salt Lake City Warehouse National Register District. And so this image shows the existing conditions on the site as of early October. A portion of the building, which meets the code's definition for demolition, was illegally removed in March 2024, and staff notes that the demolition was completed under prior ownership. And so this is an October 2021 Google Street View image of the building. And so for this project, the applicable standards of approval are the reconstruction standards in 21A 34020. The commission reviewed and made a positive recommendation for these in January of this year, and then the City Council adopted and published the standards in April. So this is the first time the commission is reviewing a project using these standards. And there are 3 key considerations in the staff report. The first and third are the reconstruction itself, and then the materials proposed. And so as I mentioned earlier, the applicant is proposing to reconstruct the building to its appearance after its construction in 1910. It was designed by Cannon and Fetzer in the Tudor Gothic style, and the design for the reconstruction is based off of photographs and conditions on the site. And the applicant has not been able to locate plans for the building. The construction will use a salvaged brick from the site, and then there is a condition of approval to delegate to staff the approval of any brick that's not salvaged. The proposed windows and doors are wood, and these are also based off of photographs and the windows on the 8th Ward Meeting House, which was designed by the same architects. And then a substantial part of the reconstruction is a double staircase that leads to the second floor chapel. And so on this slide, on the top, you can see the reconstruction on the east side of the building, as well as the reconstruction of a set of stairs that was demolished. And then on the bottom is the north elevation. Similarly, you can see the reconstructed portion. And so this is a site plan for the meeting house portion of the site, and it shows the proposed reconstruction in a lighter gray, and then the existing building in the darker gray. The other key consideration are modifications that are needed from the design standards for the D2 zoning district, which are in 21A37, the design review or the design standards chapter. These design standards are generally geared towards mixed-use developments with first-floor retail or another active use component, and so there are 5 modifications required from them. And staff does recommend approval of these modifications as this proposal is for reconstruction, and the building cannot meet the design standards as well as the reconstruction requirements. And then I also wanted to note a few other items that are unique to this building and the reconstruction requirements. And so the first is that the rehabilitation of the rest of the building will be reviewed with a separate minor alterations application. Also, right now, the property is under enforcement for the illegal demolition, and the fines for that will continue until a certificate of appropriateness is issued and all of the other violations are resolved. There is also a restrictive covenant required to be recorded on the property as part of the reconstruction requirements, and that must be recorded prior to the issuance of the COA, and it will include a provision that prohibits demolition and major alterations for 25 years. And so staff recommends approval of the reconstruction with the 3 conditions of approval that delegate to staff the review of the final design details, the location of the footprint for reconstruction, and specifically review of the brick that is not salvaged from the site, as well as the mortar color and the texture of the obscured glass. And so staff's recommendation is for approval with the recommended conditions as the proposal meets the reconstruction standards and the zoning standards with the modifications. Are there questions for staff now? The applicant is here and has a presentation.
Fellow commissioners, any questions?
I have a question. This might better apply to the applicant, but I'm wondering in general if there's any concern about creating like a false sense of history or any concern about confusion, whether this is original or not.
Right, and so I can answer a little bit of that. So just as far as what the reconstruction standards themselves require is for it to be reconstructed to its historic appearance. And so it differs a little bit from what you would have in kind of the Secretary of the Interior standards in some ways, I think, but the intent of the reconstruction standards is to require reconstruction to its previous appearance.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions?
I just had a quick question. I know that the building is now under new ownership, and so these fines that are accruing, is the new owner having to pay those, or the previous owner who was involved in this demolition situation?
My understanding is that the new owner is responsible for the fines that accrue during their ownership, and then there can also be potentially a discussion on the fines once there is that certificate of appropriateness and the violations are resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Very well. Can I ask you to go back 3 slides, I think?
More?
I think, well, 1 more, please. So with the modifications, the key considerations are, is there anything really honestly, genuinely to be done with any of these modifications that exceed the front yard, don't have the glass requirements? Because those were all existing conditions, correct?
Right.
So then go forward a couple of slides. Yeah, that one right there. This is just me as an architect. I would say that as you're going to be reusing the salvaged brick, I would try to have all of the leading edge pieces of brick wall be most forward and side, so that any of the new brick that's to match the old brick as much as possible would be on the inside or internal, so that what you see most easily from the street would be the salvage brick as much as possible. That would be my only recommendation, because I think that would be.
Sure. I know the applicant had talked about trying to have it on the north elevation as well, where it's less visible than the east elevation too.
Fair enough. All right.
I wanted to follow up on. I wonder if I could just follow up on what Michael was saying about the false historic appearance. The one thing, like on the corner closest to us in this photo, there's that cornerstone. If I recall correctly, it said on one side it said 1910, one side it said 1937, and 1910 is the date of the original building. I wonder if that could be resolved by saying 1910 and 2025 or whatever, so that you wouldn't want to recreate the 1937 date for sure, because.
Sure. That might be something the applicant can address as well.
All right.
Very well. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Very well. Thank you very much. Now I think it's time for the applicant presentation.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Knighton, and
You have to really get close to the mic, sorry.
I'll eat the mic. My name is Jeff Knighton. I'm the architect of record on this with Knighton Architecture. Thomas Shorts, who also works in our office, has been the principal designer on this, and he's on paternity leave, so he can't be here today. But I can speak to most things, and then Skylar Baird, who's the property owner, is also here, can answer questions as well. Sarah did a great job of kind of walking through what we're proposing, so I don't have a ton to add, but let's see. Okay. We, as she mentioned, we dug around a lot for plans. We were not able to find anything. We worked with Emily Utt, preservationist with the church. This initially was an LDS meeting house. This building has had many lives and served many purposes, including a Nirvana concert music video at one point. So we're excited to be involved with trying to repair the damage that's been done and provide new life for the building and for the property. And this is kind of the first step of some improvements to the property in general. As noted, there are fines occurring, and so there's definitely a lot of motivation to resolve this issue initially, and then continue to develop other details for the remainder of the property. Let's go to this. So this is the oldest photo that we've been able to find of the building of the 1910 version, and as noted, it was designed by Cannon and Fetzer. There's another photo from about 1910 that really shows the building really well, and this, yeah, as noted, this is the version of the building that we have designed to, not the 1937 edition. Which was the portion that's been demolished. And then, as many of you have seen, this was the condition when we got involved. The cleanup has been ongoing. They've had volunteer crews with the community on Saturdays. They're doing another one this Saturday to help salvage brick and sort brick that can be used. As we're uncovering the rubble and stuff in front of the building there, we're still trying to piece together some of those details that have not been visible to this point. But otherwise, every effort has been made to try to stay true to the historic original design and construction, which is what we've depicted here. There's, as noted, Emily Utt helped us kind of tour some other properties that were designed by the same architect, similar period, so we could take some cues on like the windows and the wood and things like that. One of the things that has come up as we've been uncovering the rubble is it does appear there may have been an opening So, whoops, down on this bottom left, you can see there's, just from the shadow on the building, there's a gap right there that we think that's where they added this door and a stair to go down. We weren't sure if that was still there when when we first started uncovering the rubble. We're unsure if that's going to really be helpful to us to maintain a door or an opening there. We don't know if this stepped down and entered into the building at that point. So one of the things we would be asking for tonight is just to, as we continue to uncover details, if we can work through some of those little details with staff to figure out what's the best way to address some of those things, keep the right type of access and everything to the building. So just wanted to point that out and bring it up. I've highlighted it here on this PDF in blue. I don't think otherwise we have a whole lot more to add. Again, we're just eager to fix the mess that's been made, get the building secure and safe, and stop ongoing damage that that occurs as it's an abandoned building, and then be taking those other steps to revitalize the whole property. So that's it for me. If you have any questions for me from the architectural side, or like I said, Skylar is here as well, can answer questions.
I have a question.
Very good. I'm going to ask, are there any questions either for staff or for the applicant at this point?
Yeah, I do have one. Can you talk about why the 1910 version versus the 1937 edition is the choice to reconstruct?
And Skylar, you can answer. Maybe you want to answer that one.
Because it's beautiful. Yeah, I just looking at the two different options, I think it's more true to what the architects originally wanted. It makes, really, that's what it is. It just looks so much more appealing, so much more beautiful. From a business standpoint, it would make more sense to do the 1930 version because you get more square footage and more rooms, but I think that it was an eyesore from the addition. I think that the front, as originally intended, looks fantastic, and I think it's going to be a bright light for the city. So.
We agreed, and we usually wouldn't have a developer say, or building owner, give me less square footage, but we did like the original design of it too. So,
Commissioners?
I'm just wondering. It looks fantastic in the drawings. It looks like you've been really careful about getting all the proportions right, and so that it really looks the way that it did. But I'm wondering, how did you determine? How did you go about creating that reconstruction of what it looked like, more than just copying what was in the photos? Because photos don't, translate to feet and inches all the time.
Wish we had the technology. We could take that photo and then the computer could just spit out the 3D model, right? It was just careful study of the photographs, like I said, and of other similar projects. And then there's still enough of the building too to give us a lot of clues. So one of the first things we did when we got involved is we did a 3D scan of the full interior of the building and with the drone of the exterior of the building. So like the images here that show our model, where did they go? Right here. They're derived from that 3D scan that we did of the building. And so we were able to take cues from the proportions and things that have been done in other parts of the building and then try to scale that, as far as the photographs.
And then underneath the red there, the addition, the stairs, that foundation is still intact. So that also helped a lot.
So the 1937 edition was built in part on the foundation of the 1910 building. Okay.
Yeah, you can see where this foundation is here in 1937. They just used those same foundations and built up.
Okay.
So that helped.
Yeah. Now that tells you got it right.
And the staff has been great. We've had a lot of dialogue with the staff here in Salt Lake City, and again, other resources that we tried to connect with.
Okay.
I know this was a big news story, and we weren't allowed to talk about it because we knew that it was going to be coming to the commission eventually. So in some ways, it's really nice to have you here. It's really nice to see your renderings. I'm grateful that we have a new owner who sees the beauty in this historic building and wants to give it a good life. So thank you.
Very good. Very good. Any other comments from you? Very good. Thank you.
We're good.
Very good. Thank you. At this point, let's open the public hearing. I would remind everyone to keep their comments to 2 minutes, please. Are there any public comments? And you really do have to get close to the microphone.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm Robert Stagel. I'm married to Tammy Stagel. She's the cookie goddess next door with Ruby Snap. I just want to tell you guys what a great job they're doing in preserving every single brick. You know, you got people over there knocking mortar off, doing all the right things. They're doing a great job. You know, it's been run down for a long time. I took it upon myself to call graffiti every day. I mean, I had them on speed dial because I'm like, Zane, hey, how are you? Guess what we got? Art next door. We have artists. I have all the windows again. So to have these guys want to secure that place and do the right thing instead of some square apartment that is going to fall apart in 10 years, the city has enough of that. These guys are doing a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned. It's a tragedy that the person who knocked down the trees and did all the damage to the place, that is a tragedy, but maybe a blessing as well, because now it's going to go into somebody's hands who wants to preserve it and wants to move forward in the right way, in my opinion. Like, the parking lot is helpful. These guys are just doing a nice job, and us as neighbors want to say thank you. You know, we need somebody like that, because you got people starting fires over there. You got graffiti. There's a lot of things that go on at night. Enough to where we lit our north wall is right on their parking lot. We lit it. We put cameras there. I had to shut them off. I couldn't take it at night. There's just so much activity, and that's all going away because of presence. You have a vacant building, it draws the wrong crowd. So these guys are doing the right thing.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? I would also then ask staff if there has been any emails in response to this
No.
written in?
No
Very
emails,
good. Thank you. All right. So at this point, let's close the public hearing. I don't know that we need a rebuttal by the applicant of anything that's been said. So I would assume that everything that was said in your behalf, you agree with. All right. All right. So at this point, let's close that and move into executive session and discuss the items between the commissioners in the closed session. Let's begin the conversation.
I would commend you for the volunteer activities you have going. Right, I came to one of your brick cleanups, and that was fantastic. And thanks for donating Ruby Snap cookies for that too. That was great too. But no, that helps build a sense of community around this, and I think that's very commendable. So thank you for doing that. And no, I don't have any other substantial comments. No, I think it's great.
I just want to make a comment. I drove by the property shortly after we were notified that there had been some destructive activity. And I pulled up into the parking lot and I saw activity in the back. And having a history in the construction industry, when trucks are parked with their license plates facing the opposite direction, my hinky button goes off that there's maybe some things going on that are after hours or not approved of. So I called the city right away, or I sent a text, I think it was, and I said, hey, I thought there wasn't supposed to be any activity because there was some equipment moving about, and the city staff got right back to me and said, we will look right into that, and they assured me that they were just covering up windows and it was completely above board, but the prompt response by staff, I really appreciated that, and I'm glad there wasn't anything further going on. And I do want to say that one of the previous uses in the 90s, cool club, I had a good time there, so it's good to see this continuing.
Any other comments?
I do have to applaud the city on like their quick response when they were alerted there was demolition going on, and the city was on top of this and preventing any further damage. And then now that we have an owner who cares enough to do a nice job, I think this will be a real gem. It's been a rundown property. And I mean, I've kept my eye on it for years, and so to see the plans, and we've all been worried about it ever since the demolition. We've all been like, what's going to happen there? And then to see like a vision here that's like, this is what we would all hope, I think, to see happen. So I'm pleased with that.
Emily, Michael, any comments?
I agree with everything that's been said. I still do have a little bit of nagging concern about the false sense of history that might be created. With the
I had to laugh when you said that. I drove by there. I think almost everyone in this room and anyone who works downtown has driven by the site as soon as it was in the news and such. So a lot of folks are looking and watching and waiting, for the reconstruction. So if there's not, go ahead.
I am curious a little bit, Michael, what your concerns, or what you think.
I rather liked your idea of including the date, because that keystone's going to have to be recut anyway to eliminate the buttress that existed on the outside of the 1937 edition, correct? Yeah. That's because that's the one with the date on it, right?
They just put the other date, I think, on it right there.
Yeah.
I think the Secretary of the Interior standards says something along the lines of things should not be reconstructed without careful evidence, and it seems like here that they followed careful evidence, but I still like the idea of doing something that if you look close, you can say, oh, I can see that this is not an original, this is a reconstruction. So yeah, I do like the idea of doing something that will give that indication. And I don't know if that's something that we can make a stipulation of approval,
or whether that's something we delegate to staff.
If that's something that we would leave to the staff but I do like that idea of giving some kind of clue. If you look carefully, you'll see, okay, yeah, no, this is not an original part of the building.
Yeah, I like your idea, like Michael said, with the cornerstone, with the 1910, 2025, 2026, whatever year. Mm-hmm. And then it would be really cool to have maybe a mini museum in there with some history of the building through time. So just a thought.
So in light of the comments, Michaela, I would assume that staff would be the approving reviewer. Yeah, that would be my thinking.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Does that make sense? Yeah, very good. All right. Seeing no other questions and comments, I'm gonna just read that just to make certain that we're all on the same page. That what we're doing is requesting approval for the reconstruction of the demolition portion of the 5th Ward Meeting House. So I will ask at this point for a motion.
I can make the motion. Got it?
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to move that we approve should I say the number? Based on the information presented, I'm going to motion that we approve the motion as presented.
Very well. Thank you, Emily. Can I have a second, please?
I will second.
Okay. So is there any discussion needed on the motion? Very well. Let's do the proverbial roll call. I'll start in order. Adrian?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
Jared?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So the motion carries and is unanimous. Thank you very much. I believe, everyone's looking. I believe with that, since the second item has been postponed, we've accomplished the business at hand for this evening. And that being the case, I formally close this meeting for this evening. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Well done. Thank you.